Are you experiencing back pain that you can't get rid of? Getting migraines, vertigo, having trouble sleeping, and/or brain fog? Do you feel like your medical doctor doesn't understand your condition? Blair Chiropractic might be the solution you've been looking for. If you've ever been skeptical about this, the two doctors you're about to listen to were even more skeptical than you were when they looked into chiropractic work. But fear not. Get expert guidance from the blonde and the bald, Doctors Beth Bagley and Frederick Schurger. These two doctors have extensive experience beyond the healthcare realm and bringing unique vision and healing to their patients. What do you have when you get a biological analyst and an engineer together? Find out right here on another episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Welcome your hosts, Doctors Bagley and Schurger.
Dr. Bagley, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing, Dr. Schurger?
I am doing absolutely well. And for everyone who hasn't realized, Dr. Bagley and I have been chatting for about a half an hour at this point.
And at some point we were going to we should probably hit record
we should
so
start
y'all
recording.
can hear our conversation.
Exactly. And part of it was because we're like, what are we going to talk about today? And we're like, we're going to talk about planning what we're going to talk about these next couple of times. And we got some great ideas. Hopefully we'll have a couple of good interviews here over the next few episodes. We've got some people we're going to reach out to. No spoilers. Well,
spoilers.
We want them to come. But, as we were going through the list and I was thinking, well, I've got some great research for going back to 99 from Dr. Dan Murphy, who has been basically compiling chiropractic and chiropractic related research, since 1999, on a weekly basis. Sometimes he's got extra stuff and just all the odd stuff. Like I said, some of it, is directly related to chiropractic. Some of it is related to health, just a wealth of knowledge. So I started going through that and we were just, what topic are we going to talk about today? And acetaminophen came to mind.
That's also known as Tylenol for people who don't know that term.
Or paracetamol if you are in in Europe. Hospital, but Europe uses the paracetamol. So
it's all the same chemical.
Right. And it's curious because it's one of those over-the-counter medications that people just rely upon. People don't realize that a lot of them are actually allergic to it. And that's an issue if you need a good strong painkiller. And
they consider it safe because it taken properly, it probably is very rarely somewhat safe, but there are side effects that people need to know about.
Exactly. And I don't know about you, but I think I'm not going to say, because I'm not 100%, but I think a couple of years ago, Illinois passed a law that basically said that over-the-counter meds can be recommended by chiropractors. And I took a step back and I said, no, I'm not going to do that.
And this one you probably wouldn't recommend, correct?
This is actually, and quite honestly, I think when that law passed, I can actually, sort of the catch-22 is, as chiropractors, we don't put anybody onto any medications.
No, we do not.
And we will not take anybody off of any medications.
Never.
First and foremost. But quite honestly, now that I have under my license, at the very least, and certainly we're just going to talk about research today. We're not going to make any recommendations for anybody who's listening to this. Never, figure that we're giving medical advice because we're chiropractors. We don't give medical advice.
We sure don't.
But to the point, we need to understand what some of these medications do because they might have other problems. And, a lot of people ask the same thing about their supplements. Doc, is this going to interfere with this, that, or the other? And sometimes they do.
Yep, they do.
And we're going to talk about a supplement that used to be a medication that's now a supplement again. That will interfere with medications and properly interfere with too much Tylenol.
So when you said Tylenol, my first thought went to a study that came out in 2019. And looking back now, there's a study in 2016 that had to do with empathy. And everyone's like, what? Empathy? So that's like caring about other people, right?
Yeah.
And you can empathize with the person. You can see it from their perspective, right? It's like what a narcissist can't do is that narcissists cannot empathize with someone else. They can pretend to, but they don't.
Right.
So in 2016, the study came out, and I didn't know about this one until today because I had just heard about the second one in 2019, that when someone has prolonged use of Tylenol, they have they have trouble with empathizing with other people's pain. And I was like, oh, incredible. Because the study that I was looking at and had actually talked to patients about was, if you take Tylenol too often or often enough, you will have trouble empathizing with other people's happiness. Both are equally bad.
Yeah.
So in general, we can say they were just studying those two traits, but empathy is a pretty important human quality, especially for doctors and hospital workers, but also for humans to interact with each other, have good relationships with each other. And we could be inadvertently taking a medication that is affecting your ability to interact with your loved ones, with the people you want to have relationships with, and making it harder for you to do that. And yes, all of the studies that we're going to talk about coming up will also explain to you why there's other things going on. But that one really gets to me, because one of my goals as a chiropractor is help people relate to other people in their lives. And you do that through the nervous system.
Well, to have a better life in general.
Yes.
And if you can't empathize, you're not going to be able to interact with people and in any meaningful way.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking about a lot of elderly people who take Tylenol on a daily basis. What is that doing for their relationships with their family? What is that doing for their mental health?
Right.
The implications in this is honestly huge, and it needs to be more. It did come out in the news, mainstream media, when that 2019 study came out, but it slowly just went and it went. It's gone, and people don't think about it anymore.
Well, of course not, because it's Tylenol, and it's a major brand.
It sure is.
Shoot, I don't even know who's. I know Tylenol. I want to say GlaxoSmithKline, maybe.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked it up. But one of the thoughts that I had regarding that, as you were talking about this empathy thing, is some of the young men, especially, I see it more in young men than I see it in young women. But they seem disconnected from the world. And I hate to use on the spectrum.
It's Johnson & Johnson, by the way.
Is it Johnson & Johnson? Okay. We won't get into.
No, we could talk about that later.
That could go on for a long time. But we shouldn't. But no, I'm curious, because I hate to use on the spectrum for some of these young men and women, but they certainly seem like they have a disconnect. And maybe some of it is, they're not autistic, but they're certainly a little on the spectrum. They just have a hard time interacting with people. And the question in my mind, because we've been taught Tylenol is safe. It's an easy painkiller. Heck,
it's safe and effective.
Yeah, exactly. It's safer than aspirin, which is a whole other. We should do another episode on aspirin.
We could, but we're not going to. Not right now.
No, we shouldn't. But the Tylenol thing begs the question: how many of these young men and some young women as well, that are sort of having this disconnect from other people, friends and family? How many of them are on Tylenol just because it's like, oh, I take about 3 or 4 of these a day? I mean, we were joking last week's episode about my brother, who I don't remember which one he takes, that he considers Skittles, but the painkiller, that's
I'm gonna guess it's Advil because of the shape of a normal Advil, but
could be, but it could be something else that he's taking. Anyways, but that's interesting. That's really curious. And I'm just going to go down through the list of. I've got I got a dozen articles probably here. Let me start with. Let's start with this 2006 study. Actually, real quick, do you know where your 2018 study was?
The 2016 or 2019?
Either one. Do you know what journals those came out of?
Yeah, I can tell you in a second. The 2016 study was on social and cognitive effect neuroscience, and it was September 11th. It looks like it was published online on May 5th. Yeah. So I got that on the NCBI.
Got it.
And the if someone's looking for that, it's from painkiller to empathy killer, acetaminophen reduces empathy for pain.
Perfect. So here's this article that I've got here is basically the government was considering adding a stronger warning label for Tylenol. How, first off, it can be deadly, can cause, taken more than recommended, even once, can cause liver failure. And again, this is going back to 2006. This is nothing new. People have understood that that taking more than we've understood that taking more than 4,000 milligrams of acetaminophen per day is too much. And if you ever do this and you are starting to have an overdose, let's go down the list and see what we have for the overdose. Alcohol is going to make it worse.
Yes.
And here's the other thing. It's in every medication that you're taking. If you're taking a cold medication, something for your fever, they almost all have them
already in them.
In them.
When it's like cold and painkiller, and that is such a good point. Is you might not even know that you're going to overdose,
right? Because you're
already taking it.
You're taking a couple of them, and then I'm just going down the list. And it's even worse if you're combining it with alcoholic drinks. So because this is all hitting liver toxicity. Person may feel fine, maybe just nauseated a day or two before the crisis hits. And ER doctors can treat, and they do treat, acetaminophen overdoses fairly regularly. In fact, I went through and found the search I did on my record or my database of these articles actually was on glutathione production. And then I went through and said, all right, which ones are the acetaminophen articles? And I found a half dozen or so of them. And what do they do in an ER? They give
before we go over the ER.
Yeah.
Somebody out there's like, what's the symptoms of it? So I just looked it up. Abdominal pain, irritability, generalized weakness, loss of appetite, jaundice, which is yellowing skin. Mostly you could see in your eyes first, I believe. Diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting. So that could be you're already sick and you're taking something, and all of a sudden, like, you're just getting worse, and you're just thinking, well, then I'm going to take some more.
Exactly.
I can see why people would overdose on this.
Yeah.
So in the ER, what do they give them?
So they give them something called NAC.
They do this intravenously in the ER.
So NAC is N-acetylcysteine. This is a precursor to your own antioxidant. We don't make vitamin C. We've talked about this before, but we don't, as human beings, we don't make our own vitamin C. I think almost all other mammals do. There might be one other that doesn't. We make glutathione instead, and that is our natural antioxidant. NAC is the direct precursor for it, and by taking NAC, you're actually boosting your glutathione. This helps clean up the liver and helps clean up the acetaminophen that is in your system. So this is one of the best supplements that you can get. I have both nows. This is a powder that I get from them.
And I have this one.
You have orthomolecular.
Orthomolecular.
And then I've got a pill form that's from Protocol for Life, also a now brand.
Okay, I have a secret.
Yeah.
So I may have talked about this already, but when the COVID stuff was all big, this was one of the supplements a lot of people were trying to get, and it was harder to find because everybody was ordering it. And we had a nice supply at my house of this. And what I found out is I was taking this just as a general supplement, taking it when COVID was just going around rampantly. And I happened to have a few extra glasses of wine one day. And the next day, usually after drinking wine for me, is not a good day.
Right.
And
especially if you.
And I did not have a hangover.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, could it be related? So I had no idea. I looked it up, and yes, this is related, because when you have a hangover, what happens?
Your liver is unhappy, and your liver's trying to detoxify all that. Yeah. And you're tanking your glutathione in the process.
You are. Absolutely.
And
so it's honestly, I'm not trying to tell people go drinking and all that stuff, but if you're going to be going to a wedding or something like that, you're going to have a couple drinks, this is a great supplement to have on hand.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the other thing. During COVID, there was this big old ban on a lot of natural supplements. NAC was one of them.
This was one of them.
There was another one. A lot of people, when they started talking about vitamin D and the benefits of vitamin D, along with the potential, the people who seemed to have the worst symptoms had significantly low vitamin D levels. However, vitamin D levels, in and of themselves, if they are below 30, you are in poor health. So anything you can do to get them up higher and higher. And again, we've talked about this a couple episodes ago. The really upper level of vitamin D in your blood is somewhere up in around 150. I think it's nanograms. I don't quote me on that, but it's high. But most people think, well, as long as you're over 50, and then you're in at least a good spot. Well, maybe. I think more research is necessary. But NAC is an immediate hit, and that the vitamin D, just giving someone who's sick vitamin D is great. It's sort of like saying to the person whose house is burning down, let's get you a cup of water to put that out, opposed to the fire hose that you need to really address the problem. It is a long-term solution. Actually, it could even be better analogized that giving a person whose house is burning down new lumber to rebuild, it's the wrong time. It's the right message, but it's the wrong timing. NAC is the fire hose coming at you, trying to solve the problem immediately. So people who are sommeliers or whatever that fancy word, people who like to go taste wine,
wine tasters and the wine,
they're trying to taste that. They've got an afternoon of drinking, and sipping these little wines throughout. They don't want to. They want to enjoy a glass at the end of it, maybe. But they are trying a bunch of wines along the way, and they actually will take NAC to help prevent them from having problems down the line. So that is, again, it's nice to have. Now, here's an added bonus while we're talking about NAC. There is definitely some benefit for, from working out and taking some NAC, but not the day that you're doing it. So like today is my workout day. I did a bunch of kettlebell snatches and I didn't completely destroy my hands. I know I'm going to try not
Obviously,
to do that.
you weren't doing it hard enough.
No, I was taking my time, and I said, all right, I don't need to, I got to the point where I'm like, one more set will break what was broken open another layer deep. I didn't want that. But today would not be the day to take this. Sunday and Monday were my days off, and I made sure to take this, and I took extra because last week my legs were still so sore that every time I tried to stand up from sitting for any period of time, I wanted to cry. Self-inflicted, obviously, but still, that helped. That's good. NAC is good for your off and your recovery days when you're not pushing yourself to work out hard. Not so good because you actually want a level of inflammation after a workout, because that's actually what is breaking down and rebuilding your muscle tissue, making everything stronger. If you went right for the NAC, you're going to end up blunting that response, and you're not going to get the muscle building that you want in the long term.
So not that you would be recommending for anyone listening, how much they should take, but if you were after a workout a day or two later, how many would you take?
So I will take maybe 2 of these a day.
And how many milligrams are those?
This one's 1,000 milligrams in this.
Okay.
And then this one is 600 for a quarter teaspoon.
So
this
one's 500. So
so I'm taking, I'll take a dose. And if I know that I've got a really rough day or I had a really rough workout on Saturday, so my current workout schedule is Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. On my off days, I can sort of gauge. It's like I'll take this in the morning as I start going through my normal supplements, and at lunch, maybe I'll remember to take one of these.
Got it.
And then maybe if I'm still feeling rough at dinner, I'll take one more. But I'm gauging it. I'm not. There is not a strong, hard, fast prescription. People who have a lot of inflammation, maybe they need more.
That's true.
So I want to say I've seen recommendations up to 3,000 milligrams a day.
Okay.
But I wouldn't, again, be careful and gauge it.
And do your research. Talk to your chiropractor or doctor
talk
about
to your
that.
doctor about it. So, but anyways,
Okay, back to Tylenol.
Back to Tylenol. So let's wrap up this one here. That was the dangers of, and the stuff aren't the stuff that they were recommending.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, Tylenol overdose or too much Tylenol is the number one cause of acute liver failure, and that's pretty darn serious.
Well, and it's not just liver failure, because we were talking about that. Is it liver or kidney? And is it kidney or is it liver? And quite honestly, I've heard both.
I have too, but I don't know if that's true.
And well, here it is.
Oh, you found it. Okay, good.
Yeah, here it is. Another one that Dan Murphy put together for us. This was a 1994 John Hopkins research study in the New England Journal of Medicine that basically said risk of kidney failure associated with use of acetaminophen, aspirin, and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So this is going back to back to 1994 that they were acknowledging that this was causing kidney failure. So again, too much is a problem. And certainly a lifetime of taking this stuff. If you read what it says on the outside of the bottle, and this goes back to my brother's joke about Skittles, it is not designed to be taken every day for the rest of your life. It is for short acute relief of pain.
Yeah.
It says that on the bottle or something to that effect. So when you start taking it longer and longer and longer, you're going to have other problems, as this article suggested that for some increased risk of end-stage renal disease was as high as 220%, which is a lot. I don't get excited about percentages when in a research study until we start getting into the hundreds or the thousands. And the reason I say that is because so many of these research studies are looking at something called relative risk. They're not looking at absolute risk.
Yeah.
For instance, and I'll just use this as a quick example, my favorite study on colon cancer causing a 100, or is it 100% or is it 50% increase? Either way, in your risk of, eating meat causes a 50% increase in colon cancer. Well, what's your absolute? That's a relative risk. So it sounds big, but what's the absolute risk? Well, the absolute risk without the meat is somewhere around 4.7%, and with the meat, it's about 5.3%. So the question being, what is your risk for colon cancer? Well, it's only about 5% either way. So, I'm going to go eat my steak, which I have some over here yet to finish eating, and no, I won't share it with your kids.
I
know.
What about me? I'd like some steak.
I would, but the internet doesn't work that way.
Well, Willy Wonka had a vision.
Exactly. And we do not have that. So that's one. This one here, another New England Journal of Medicine article from 1997. Acetaminophen ingestion accounts for 12% of all patients hospitalized with drug overdoses. This gets back to what we were talking about. How do they treat it? And, acute liver failure. Again, this is where the NAC comes back. And if you think of your medication as being as effective as Skittles for your pain,
there you go.
Don't take it. You're not doing so good. I mean, this was a 2004 article looking at Vicodin when that was still, that was supposed to be the thing, except for that causes heart disease and heart attacks. But that was just, a big problem. Because again, you had other problems. Not only the liver was having too much and the liver dies, and then it was causing heart failures and other things. So, that was just that one was a mess. So yeah, this is just, a handful of things. Do I have any others? I mean, he's got, again, never exceed 4,000 milligrams a day.
But like, what if you're a 105-pound woman? Like that might
that's a really
kill
good,
you.
Yeah, that's a
where,
really good point
a 230-pound man.
Because that is a major problem. Now, I suppose the upside is we aren't seeing 105-pound women as much as we are seeing 180-pound women. That's not good either, but for different reasons. But still, the bigger issue is what other stuff are you taking when you're not feeling well? You might be taking the aspirin, but you might be also taking some NyQuil or some Sudafed or some Alka-Seltzer. Really, it's an
And
Alka-Seltzer?
those could have mixed. They could have it mixed in. Yeah,
exactly.
So it's like acute cold and flu. Well, it's probably going to have this in it.
Exactly. So again, we keep on going down the list of all these problems. This one's interesting because it actually can add to hypertension.
Wow.
So how many people, think they've got high blood pressure and they're taking something that has acetaminophen in it, and that causes more problems. So again, the list goes on and on of these problems. This was hypertension in women. So I'm going to stop out of this one, and we got one more that we're going to go through here. Yeah. Or one more set of research pieces. These get into sort of into the weeds a little bit, but again, remember, anything that I'm sharing here today are all journal articles. You can go to these journals. I'm not gonna put them all in the show notes here. I don't need to do that. But make sure you're looking. This one here is out of the American Journal of Medicine, March 2010. Analgesic use and the risk of hearing loss in men. So again, we're getting into the NSAIDs, we're getting into the aspirins, we're getting into the acetaminophen. Men who were taking these pain meds, were actually having increased risk of hearing loss, and that's not good either. So all ages, aspirin was increasing hearing loss by 12%, 33%, and again, they were just more than 2 times a week was the consumption.
Look at the acetaminophen.
More
than 2 times a week. Oh, I said
for over 50 men, there was
over
a
50.
99% increase in hearing loss. Now, it doesn't mean you're going deaf from taking acetaminophen. It just means you're having hearing
Hearing's
loss.
impacted.
Yeah. So these were,
I did not know that one.
Right, and that's where you start asking questions. All right, how safe is this? Which goes back to the U.S. government wanting to say, well, maybe we should have tighter controls for the use of this medication. And it came out at a time when it looked like it was low risk.
If you're taking it one time, I won't take it, but if you were taking it one time every 6 months, probably is low risk. But people are buying this over and over and over again, meaning they're taking it.
It's in their shopping carts. It is. It is on their regular. It's something that they regularly shop for because it takes care of the problem that they're having. Remind me. I want to come back to a thought at the end. Okay. I better write it down too because it's a good thought.
Yeah, I also want to come around and talk about kids taking Tylenol.
Well, we're going to hit that.
Okay.
And so birth to early childhood right here. So this is it's a big question in the world of autism research. So this is the Journal of International Medical Research in January 2017. And they were looking at what could autism be? At this point in time, 2017, a lot of the research. Oh, your screen is being. Are you seeing stuff?
I don't see you moving anything. I don't see what you're talking about. I see something about hypertension.
So again, this is out of the role of oxidative stress, inflammation, and acetaminophen exposure from birth to early childhood, looking at autism. So about when this study was published in January 2017. A couple years earlier, the NIH as a group basically said there is no research to tie autism to vaccines. But the question is what is happening in these young children that might, what else might be going on? Not a vaccine, that is getting these, these kids are going through their normal medical checkups and they're having problems. So they start looking at other questions that might be related. And one of them is the use of acetaminophen in babies and young children may be much more strongly associated with autism than its use during pregnancy, perhaps because of well-known deficiencies in the metabolic breakdown of pharmaceutical products during early development. So, this might, this is their, one of their theories that there might be something else going on. Now, is it the mother who's taking too much? Which, moms are
Could
having a lot of pain and a lot of other stuff and a lot of just stuff moving around while they're pregnant. Could it be that, you've got a baby Tylenol that you're like, well, they've got a little bit of a fever. Let's give them something. We could talk about that as nauseum as to why that's a bad idea. For especially, for a low level fever in the, what is it, 10 up to 103 is usually considered low level for children.
So that's in number 5 there. I'm going to read it. Autism is a complex disorder associated with many factors, including maternal exposure to various chemical substances, maternal diabetes or autoimmune, exposure to the infant to various chemical substances, vitamin D levels at the infant at birth, and then a large number of genetic factors. I think that that's a really good, concise way to say it's not always just bad luck.
No. And there's more going on that we don't understand. And just the amount of stuff that they're trying to figure out, these kids that have this, not only why did they get it, but how do we communicate with them? There's some amazing stuff that they're doing to help these young men and women to actually communicate with us, because they're stuck behind a wall and but they're there. And that's sort of the exciting thing. There are ways.
Yeah. They really are.
There's a documentary called Spellers, I think is what it is, that came out maybe just this past year. Won all sorts of awards. Definitely exciting stuff. But in any case, what else is going on?
Real quick, for someone listening who wants to understand quickly the mechanism that could happen. So and I don't know if they still do this, but in the past, your pediatrician may have said, well, give your baby some Tylenol before he comes in because he's getting his baby shots. And so you give your baby Tylenol, or you might do it afterwards because they might spike a fever.
Yep.
And you were told to do that. Where the shots themselves will have the nature of a vaccine is that your body has to detoxify from them. There's going to be there's going to be immune response and detoxification that has to happen in order for the vaccine to quote unquote work. So then the baby's body is then also inundated with a chemical Tylenol that lowers glutathione levels, which is a process, one of the processes of detoxification in the body. Just like if I drink too much alcohol and I need more glutathione, I feel better if I take the NAC, right? So the baby's body is lower in glutathione because we give them Tylenol. Then we inundate them with a toxic substance that the baby has to recover from.
Right.
And it doesn't have the ability to recover, this infant. And now there's a reaction, and the body will go into this cascade. And there's lots of evidence of the cascade that can happen. And this is a possible way that the link between Tylenol, vaccines, and brain changes.
Yeah.
Whether we want to call that autism or spectrum disorder, or there's lots of other brain changes that can happen, ADD or ADHD. Do we have 100% proof? No, I don't, but it just makes sense. And now, I mean, like I was on my Facebook feed and it was like, did you take Tylenol during pregnancy and now your child has autism? Sign up for our lawsuit.
Right.
Well, so there's stuff that's come out. There's obvious proof because lawyers are circling.
Oh, they are ready, and they are ready. And getting to your point about stuff, let's see if this will, but getting to the point about what you're just discussing, what's curious is of the places in the world that are similar to us, in the vaccine schedule. Cuba is right there. And Cuba is very unique because the percent of the population with autism in the U.S. is 298 times higher than in Cuba. But Cuba has a, where is it?
Compulsory vaccine.
Yes.
So
yes.
they don't have a choice.
They don't have a choice. There is no religious exemption down there. There is no medical exemption. They're all getting it. But again, here it is. Here's what you were just talking about, how parents are advised to give prophylactically 5 days prior to the childhood vaccines. Cuba is not approved. Acetaminophen, Tylenol, is not an over-the-counter product and has not been since, is not an over-the-counter product in Cuba. It has been since 1959 in the U.S.
So it's been readily available on every drugstore counter for most of our lifetimes.
Exactly.
Yet, in Cuba, they don't even know what it is.
They do, because it's a prescription for acetaminophen for vaccine fever is very, very uncommon. So
they have it, but it's prescription only.
And honestly, they're not, generally they're not going to give it to the kids because they recognize that fever reaction is actually the body's normal reaction to turning on all the stuff, all the mechanisms that they want to happen for the vaccine. So whatever it is.
I mean, that makes sense. If you have a cold or a flu, you get a fever.
Right.
And that's turning on your immune system to fight whatever it is. So, treating every fever seems so silly in our country.
It really does, especially when we forget the fact that a fever is the body's response to killing off and identifying and creating all the antibodies to whatever is attacking it at the moment. But this article goes on to basically say acetaminophen use appears to be linked to both autism and asthma, because it's curious because both disease incidences rise and fall with the use of acetaminophen. There were three scares about aspirin in the U.S. One was a rise a rise with aspirin, something called Ray's syndrome warning. That was a big deal back in 1980 that I vaguely remember.
And they still tell kids not to take aspirin because
of this. Right. And then there were two scares with cyanide laced aspirin.
No, this was cyanide laced Tylenol.
Or Tylenol. Thank you. In 82 and 86, and they both saw a decrease in asthma after those times.
Because everybody got rid of it. They threw it away.
Everybody said, no, we're not going to bother. We don't know if it's safe. And quite honestly, maybe it never was for these instances. So, but again, it's just.
Yeah, it's not as dangerous as cyanide, but it's still dangerous.
No. But here's the short list of side effects that PubMed has indicated the presence of 2,685 articles regarding acetaminophen toxicity. So neurotoxic on brain neurons, maternal use during pregnancy associated with tetragenic defects in testicular formation and gastrointestinal tract. I mean, no, I don't want that. Oxidative damage to proteins, nucleic acid, amino acids, and lipids causes increased mitochondrial and cellular damage and death. I mean, folks, mitochondria are the powerhouse of your cells. If you don't got no energy, that's a big part of it right there. Severe immune abnormalities and immune response depression, depletion of glutathione that we've been talking about this entire hour, the leading cause of liver failure. You talked about kidney failure earlier. 56,000 emergency room visits in each year, increased rates of certain blood cancers, prenatal or postnatal increased incidence of asthma. I don't know how
I'm sure that's a short.
Yeah.
Oh, prenatal asthma? What?
That's what I know. That's what I wanted to ask. I don't know what that is.
They're not breathing inside.
Exactly.
That's weird.
It really is. It really is. So, any case, this is one of my favorite articles because this asks and answers a lot of questions as to why Tylenol might actually be a problem in our daily supplement list. So yeah, that's why that thing pops off. Okay, I switch a tab to the next article and it doesn't just track with me.
Got it. That makes sense.
We're coming up on an hour. Let's see. We already talked about hypertension, so I'm going to skip this one. This one's curious. And I like this because everyone asks about, Doc, well, what about CBDs? And, how's that helpful? And why don't I bother with CBD? Well, it's because I'm convinced every time I've taken any CBD, I get nothing. It's like, well, that's nice because my endocannabinoid system is working properly. Different time for a different day, but that's your internal endocannabinoids, and there might be something going on with that. So for a lot of people who are having problems, maybe CBD oils are going to be beneficial for these kids. And again, this is an article, Acta Neurobiologics Experimentalis. Take it for what it is. It is a journal that has been around for a while. So because they've got 70 volumes, but I am unfamiliar with this journal directly. But this is a 2010 study. They were looking at Ray's syndrome. Let me see if they've got something talking about what Ray's is, because it's been a while since I've looked it up.
Ray's syndrome, a rare but serious condition that causes confusion, swelling in the brain, and liver damage. Children recovering from a viral infection such as chickenpox or flu who have a metabolic disorder are more at risk, especially if they've been taking aspirin.
Right there.
So swelling in the brain, liver damage.
It's funny. It's aspirin
Yikes.
and it's not Tylenol.
It is aspirin.
Yeah. And that was sort of the big thing that switched kids from aspirin to Tylenol.
It is.
Back in I believe it was the 1970s. So,
Late
but
70s, probably.
there's some questions as to whether or not that's legit or not. I've heard rumors, but I haven't had a chance to track that down.
You mean Ray's syndrome was maybe a ploy by the Tylenol people?
Wouldn't be the craziest thing I've heard, especially knowing what we know now. Man, isn't it the worst? We can't even have conspiracy theories anymore because it's like
they're all facts. They all actually happen.
They become reality faster than you can debunk them. So let's see. We talked about that. So again, another a liver warning on this one here. What's this one? This one that's the hypertension in women. The hypertension in women here in this study. This was 2005, Journal of Hypertension, September 2005. And again, acetaminophen, ibuprofen, and aspirin. Commonly used. And does he have a chart in this one? No, he doesn't. 400 milligrams a day.
Yeah. Older women whose usual dose of NSAID was greater than 800 milligrams per day, which is taking it 2 to 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of people do, had 120% higher risk of hypertension compared to non-users. Wow.
Yep. And you get over 500%, you had 100% higher risk. I mean, they just, and this was younger women. These weren't even older women.
And this is daily use. So it is important to say, like, if you're like, I took it last week, am I going to get, probably not.
No,
this is more for the people that are taking it on the daily. They're taking it like as part of their routine. They wake up in the morning, they pop their pills. At lunchtime, they pull them out of their purse. At dinner time, they take their final dose so that they can go to sleep tonight.
Yeah.
Now there's an alternative to this, and I don't know if we've talked about it. It's this thing called chiropractic care.
I think you should bring that up.
So painkillers have their place. If I was to have surgery today, I probably would take some sort of painkiller. Mm-hmm. And I would try to get off it as quickly as possible.
Right.
Would I rather someone take an Advil versus a hydrocodone or a oxy? Absolutely. Yeah. I definitely would rather you be on an NSAID than something that you're going to become addicted to.
Yeah.
So there's a hierarchy of this stuff, right? And would I rather you take CBD oil or some sort of cannabis product versus chronically taking an NSAID? Probably.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the hierarchy of things. But even that being said, is that we have to realize that the alternative is taking care of oneself.
Right.
And the sooner you start taking care of yourself, the faster you will get better. You have take, eating well, exercise, diet, chiropractic care. It is essential for, I think, every human being on this planet to get checked by a chiropractor.
Oh, I would
There are definitely people who don't really necessarily have misalignments. I've met them, and but that doesn't mean 3 days from now they couldn't fall down a flight of stairs and have misalignments.
Yeah.
So getting checked on a regular basis, get your kids checked, help your body function better. That's what we're here to do. Is we're not trying to scare you to death.
Right.
But a Tylenol should scare you. It's not great.
It really isn't. And I've got one more thing. I'm looking something up here. I know I'm not paying attention to people, and I've looked away, and I'm trying to figure out a number.
The bald head is shining at me.
I know, it's extra shiny. So let's. I got one more article I want to share. Because people are going to be like, I need something now. And this is one last article on NAC. That was on experimental closed head trauma in rats. And they found that giving rats a dose of NAC following a trauma, they were, had a neuroprotective effect. So for a lot of people, it's like, hey, does NAC just take care of the liver? No, it's helping take care of the brain. I just did I'm going to do a quick 150 milligrams per kilogram. And if, let's say, I'm weighing in right around 191 right now, which is 86 kilograms. So I could take, after a head trauma, 1,300, take 13 of these. These are all 1,000 milligrams. So 13,000.
13,000.
13,000.
You probably don't need to take that much.
No. So, and that's what they were given to help reduce things. So this
could be something we recommend to our patients who have just gotten into a head trauma or a concussion.
Head trauma, car accident, concussion. And it might be something beneficial for people who are having long-term side effects and they're still having issues.
Okay.
3 a day is going to be plenty. I'll have to go do some digging. Back of my brain says 5 a day is good. Of course.
The other thing you have to watch out for, if you buy these on Amazon they smell bad, they are not the real thing. They should not have a smell to them. I've had patients that try to buy them on Amazon and they were like, they're disgusting. I was like, you got China weird stuff. Something's bad in there. Don't take that.
And I like Orthomolecular. They're a good company. Protocol and Now are a great company. They've got high standards. American companies, and they are very strict about the ingredients going into these things. Now, in the show notes, we have a link tree to our full script pages.
Yes.
So whichever one, I know I've got NAC in one of mine.
I've got NAC in my
in one of your full scripts.
My immune protocol. So.
Yeah. So either way, go to our full script pages. If you can't find it, shoot us a message. We'll make sure you get the link to that. But buy
the good stuff. Don't buy it on Amazon.
Stuff. And quite honestly, I don't think this was more than $20.
Oh, it's not expensive.
It's relatively, I can pull it up right here, but 25 tops.
I'm gonna
this
take
thing
one right
here, sometimes I get these at I get a special from Now, and I sell them at a special to the patients. So, but no, don't skimp. Now, Protocol,
Orthomolecular.
Yeah, they're all great products. And make sure you're getting the good stuff. So, any case, I think that is plenty for us today.
Yes, we did it.
I am tempted to go to the fair. They have $2 entry fee and $5 of French fries. It's magical curly fries.
As long as they're magical, it'll be fine.
They really are.
Make sure to eat some meat to fix it later.
Well, that's what I'm finishing up here. This little bit here is what's left of my 2 pounds of meat from lunch after my workout. So
delicious.
It is absolutely delicious. Dr. Bagley, where are they going to find you?
They can't. I'm too important.
You are, and you're hiding.
They can find me in St. Louis, Missouri, or on the west side of St. Louis, and we are at precisionchirostl.com.
and I'm in Springfield, Illinois at Keystone Chiropractic. No, Keystone Chiro, SPI.com, but at Keystone Chiropractic. We did a lot, and now we are planning for the next one. Folks, you're just lucky we're not doing 2 back-to-back. We're lucky we're not doing 2 back-to-back, because
I don't think we have the brain power for it today.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks.
Take care, folks.
Give us a 5-star review, like and
Please.
Subscribe.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Share this with everyone you know. Heck, the NAC alone might be enough to save someone's life if they weren't even aware that they might have a Tylenol overdose going on at a time. So, all righty, folks, you have a wonderful day, and we will see you next week.
That's all for today's episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoyed today's show with Drs. Bagley and Schurger, remember, don't give up and just live with the pain. Come back next week and get more answers and solutions. Visit our websites at KeystoneChiroSPI.com and PrecisionChiropracticSTL.com for more info, and catch all the episodes of The Blonde and the Bald.